Hello, this is Neil, the art instructor at masterpaintingnow.com, where you can find tons of free tutorials. Right, so let's start with this one here. If we draw a lady lying down, and she's like, we're kind of viewing her from above, we're looking down upon her a little bit, we're also looking at her from an angle as if she's far away from us, so she's being foreshortened. The first thing to do is go, okay, well, let's think about the relative proportions then. Starting from the middle point, if she's lying down and she's coming kind of toward us, then she's being foreshortened, right? So let's think about that foreshortened middle line here. And then let's say the head is going to fit somewhere in this area here. Now typically from here to here, that same length would come out. That's the crotch area. The head would probably be a little bit smaller then. Because remember, you then take that line, divide it in half. Take that line, divide it in half. So yeah, the head would be right about in here. Right, so then you take that same length here and length it out here. And that would be the legs are straight up. So that would be the halfway part. That would be the knees would be. So the knees would come out to here, let's say. But what if this is being foreshortened? So let's say this is the actual leg length we're going to use. And so we'll go, okay, we'll have the knees be here because their legs are going to be coming up this way. And we'll have another leg here. And then the knees will be bent down like that. Okay, so the legs will be bent at the knees. If that's how the legs are, and that's how tall the knees are, and this is foreshortened, then we have to foreshorten this, right? So all this would actually be shorter than this leg, or the legs have to be longer, one of the two. So let's say I like that length. I want to work with that length there, and I'm drawing on the actual whiteboard. Damn it. Okay, so let's see. All right, so I just quickly cleaned it up and start over. And so now I'm gonna go, okay, I'm gonna make my knees way up here now. So now you can see that by making the knees a lot longer than they would normally be, I have indeed foreshortened this area here. Because now this is much shorter than it ought to be if that's how long the knees are. So now I know, because this is foreshortened, things typically as they come toward you in space look more and more like their true proportions. So everything down here, the crotch area, is going to be shorter than it normally would, a lot shorter. And then you have, like, let's say the belly button is going to be much shorter. It's going to be really close to that. And then the rib cage, and everything is going to be close and close and close. And then maybe you'll have like the breast somewhere in this region here. Then you'll have like the top portion of the neck somewhere in here, and so forth. Something like that should kind of work out. So you have to kind of think about how things get smaller as they retract away from you. So as every object on this line retracts away from you into space, the space between objects gets shorter and shorter. So if it was a railroad track, right, and normally spaced out is like this, as it retracts back into space away from you, each track gets a little closer and closer and closer and closer together, right? So when you know the relative positions and how far away belly button is from crotch and all that kind of stuff, you just foreshorten all that as it comes toward you. Now the next thing to do is to kind of imagine the position as a box. Whether you're drawing from your mind or from a photograph, doesn't matter. Still imagine there's like a box in here. And we're seeing inside of it, we're seeing it's also foreshortened. Right? We're seeing part of the side view here, and we're seeing the top view. So we're seeing more top view than side view, but we're still seeing some side view. We know not too far away from that, you'll have your rib cage. The rib cage is kind of coming out toward us, so we're still going to have the same idea. But see how I don't draw it quite parallel. I drew everything as it's coming out and getting bigger because it's like the railroad tracks coming out toward us in perspective. If you visualize it that way, it's easier to draw, I think at least. It makes it easier to draw the three-dimensional shapes in here as you need them to be. So if I know then that this line here is my crotch area, I can start putting that shape in there. Like so. I can draw my center line up here. Let's say it's going to be like this. Now I imagine the hips. How do the hips look to me? Well, I'm viewing the inside of the hips, right? Because she's laying down flat, knees are pointing up this way. Because of that, I'm actually seeing the inside of the hips. Remember, women's hips are wide. So if I draw all the way through the figure, I'm seeing the inside of the hips like that, so I'm seeing the iliac crest here, iliac crest here. Now what do we know about anatomy? One thing we know is that the legs attach to from the crotch all the way to the iliac crest, and the legs will come down off of that, and they attach here. For now I'm just going to keep them kind of simple shapes. Like that. Right? The other thing that attaches to the back part of the iliac crest is the buttocks. And so I have to go, okay, so the side, I'm viewing the side plane here as well as the top plane. And so the side view of the plane, I'm going to view all the side of the legs here and the buttocks, right? And they're going to come all the way around here, and they attach because there's a lot of meat between the back part of your sacrum and where your butt cheeks come out, right? So you're drawing that around like that. All this is being foreshortened, so actually this is probably going to be even closer, but this will be like, we have like the rib cage a little bit coming out like this. And this will come straight like that. You'll see a little bit of the back here. This is actual back, and that's the buttocks, back, like that. It's coming like this. Start erasing some of this so it starts making more sense. And then we have the shoulder, and the shoulder will be a lot bigger because it's more toward us, and the head will also seem bigger because it's more closer to us. And so we'll draw the space where the head's going to be quite large, and kind of like that. The arm is going to come down, and it's going to be foreshortened a little bit because it's also going away from us in space. And then we'll have hand coming down like that. Right, what we can see of it. Imagine again, I'm seeing a little bit of the side plane here. And that's part of the hip, and where it goes down the crotch, and then from here you can see a little bit of it like that. Right, then you have your rib cage where it's going to be here. It's come over here a little bit, kind of sticking out. And then you have your thigh. Okay, and that might be a little too tall. And so if it just doesn't look right, like, hey, I don't know, it kind of looks a little too tall, then just go ahead and reduce the height. Make sure it fits the foreshortened look. Now, that's one thing weird about foreshortening is that even if like you trace a photo, for example, foreshortening can sometimes just look very odd, no matter what. Like even the photograph can look odd, especially if you trace a drawing without any of the form being shown with shading. It can look very strange. And the only way to get rid of that strangeness, I'm actually going to change this. Let's make the leg come down further here. Kind of follow this angle, the rib, a little bit of the rib there, and then breast. The person's laying down, so it's making the breast lie flat. Remember, when the center line comes up like that, you're seeing like a side angle of one breast and more of a front angle of the other. And this one here, it's going to kind of come. We're seeing where it's kind of wrapped around the side here. And again, it's kind of lying flat, so. Remember, we're seeing the side view of all this here. And actually, there could be even less space between here and here. You can like take all this right here, for example, and go, hey, I think there should be like less space between that. Or something like, maybe like that. And again, let's make the here. Come this way. We're seeing, remember, we're looking at the top view here, so you have your collarbones come up like this into the actual deltoids and the shoulder. So you're seeing like a little bit of the side view of the shoulder here, but also seeing part where the shoulder kind of goes like that and down. That's how you imagine it. Back that way. Draw some hair. And you're seeing a little bit of that deltoid over there. A little bit of the arm going back like that in space. Now the whole face now is being foreshortened because we're looking down at it, so we can see like the eyebrows here. We see a little bit of the eye, and this is another thing. Faces will look weird if you take a photo and just trace it. And I'm actually basing this off a photo. So I'm doing two things at once. I'm answering someone's question about foreshortening and form. At the same time, I'm making a video because I can't show the photograph because it's copyrighted. Anyway, I lost track what I was saying before, but anyway. And this is kind of coming like this, and then you'll have the center line of the face and the hairline. So because this is all coming back at us in space, and the head is being foreshortened in a weird way, if you were to, that's what I was saying, if you were to trace this, this is the central calic here. If you were actually to trace this image and just trace the face, it would look very strange. The drawing would look really weird, like what I just drew. Only when you begin to add shading and everything to it will it even look okay, but even then, if you look at just a photograph, the photograph should look strange to you too when you look at it. It's like, hey, wait a minute, that photograph just looks odd because the perspective is so strange. All right, so go ahead and start marking all the parts that'll be in shadow. This whole side plane here, remember all this right here is a side plane. But anyway, so as you're working on the image, you can just kind of think about it that way. And if you think about it that way, it should be much easier to draw. Whether it's from your imagination or from a photo, you're really still following the same things. Even when you're drawing from life or from a photo, you want to take from your knowledge of drawing from imagination as much as possible. And the reason why you want to do that is it makes it that much easier for you to draw what you see, because then you're not like being deceived by your eyes. You're going, okay, I know the mechanics of the body, and I know this is how it should be. And since I know this is how it should be, I'm going to draw it that way, and I'm going to fit the likeness of what I'm looking at, what I'm drawing, into what I know how it should be. And I think the head should be even closer though. It's all being foreshortened a lot more. Much less space between. There we go. Damn thing. It's like goes on the other screen for some reason. Alright, so there we have it, and then you have this part of the leg here. Now it doesn't want to draw. What the hell? Alright. You have this like bone over here, bone here, and here between that, kind of imagine a triangle. That's one thing I imagine when I'm doing the legs. There, the knees. Draw behind it where it's connecting. Draw through it. Okay, I need the foot to come like this. Now I'm going to see a little bit of the under pad of the foot. Oops. And it's going to come down here, and it's going to be like bent under. The toes will be like that. Ankle. Now I'd get rid of that side altogether. Anyway, so you get the idea here. So basically, that foot's way big. You know what happened is I was drawing the foot without paying attention to the rest of the figure. And that's what you don't want to do. Imagine the line of flatness where it comes across here. So I kind of figure out the perspective of the table that the person's lying on or laying on. I go, okay, all kind of comes out that way, radiates, so it comes back there somewhere, and they're all kind of radiating out like that. And then, let's see here, something like that, and then so I would come down more at an angle here. Figured tables should be more like here, coming back this way. Kind of like an angle like that. That's the edge of the table back there, and then somebody like right about here it's cut off. Anyway, so foot comes down, then it kind of bends here. And at this stage, you know, when I'm drawing the first sketch over to get the feel for a pose that I might be inspired by in a photo, I don't try to capture exactly what I'm looking at. And I'm doing it again. Why am I doing that? Okay, to prevent yourself doing what I'm doing right now, because it's being foreshortened a little bit, draw the ending point. You know, okay, this is where the tip of the toes need to be, and then be bent over. And then go, okay, so up here somewhere, you know, the foot can't be too long. It's only going to take up like this much space. And then you have like the ankle here, and the foot's come down, angled like this. And then somewhere here, you'll have this bend in the heel. Kind of showing, this is all being foreshortened, because you're not seeing that much of the bottom of the foot. Then you're seeing that little bit of the bottom of the foot there. And you'll see the little toes. They're bending forward anyway. So sometimes give yourself marks where each item needs to go. Will help you draw it easier. Oops. All that leg back there will be like more in shadow. That part of the leg. Now remember, this leg we're seeing a little bit from more of the side of the leg than we are the top of the leg. And if you look at the leg as an item, it's thinner in the front. This is like the front of the leg if it was a piece of wood. And this is the same leg from the side view. So what happens then, if you're viewing it mostly from the side, and you have it as a piece of wood, let's say, it's like thick from the side like that. And the front, the top of it, isn't so thick. Right? So the leg is kind of built like that. So you see more skin when you view the side than you do when you view the top, when you view the front. What this means is that because of the perspective of this photo, we're not seeing so much of the side of the leg here. We're seeing mostly the front of the leg. And because we're seeing mostly the front of the leg, this leg is going to appear skinnier than this leg here. This leg we're viewing mostly from the side view. We're only viewing a very little bit of the top of the leg. Most of it's all the side. And because of that, the leg is going to look thicker. So just keep that in mind when you're drawing legs. Right, so I think that's it. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else I want to cover in this video. But I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover. Just trying to show that that's where you have that break. You have your sternum right in here, and sometimes person skinny might be able to see. I'm not going to draw all those details, but and then you have this part of the rib. Might be able to see a little bit of it. A lot of this right here will be in shadow too. Not as dark shadow, but still in shadow. Some of the breast will be in shadow. Right, so anyway, I'm just getting more details. So remember, that right there is the iliac crest. And over there is you're seeing a little bit of that crest over there, and it comes around and back like that, and this one comes around and back over here. Attached to that is your back, which comes here, your buttocks, which come around and overlap, and then the side of the leg, which is here. That's how we are seeing something like here, and then it twists back to front, more of the front view of the leg. So you imagine, just to recap really quickly, you imagine, I think maybe this foot should be down a little bit further, a little bit longer, a little bit further. Anyway, because I'm just looking at see the likeness what I captured and what I missed. But again, to capture exact likeness of the photo, you really got to look at angles and stuff like this. I taught how to capture likeness in the other video, so I'm not going to go over that again. But yeah, you get the idea. But this is an easy way to just capture the feeling of the pose first, and then go back and then capture the likeness with the second sketch, because now you know the mechanics of how the pose works. But understanding the mechanics is important. So you have your hips like that, and they're going back in space. And you can imagine what's attached to the iliac crest. You know that your love handles are attached here. So you know the rib cage is a little bit higher than the iliac crest, so your rib cage will be up here. Iliac crest is there. But what's attached to the top side of the iliac crest is the love handles. Right, so if this was a guy, you'd have your love handles going like this. They're attaching there, and then this would be the rib. It comes up like that, center line. You have the side of the rib cage, side of the hips here, and this will be the front, as it comes around like that. And that's how you imagine it, and it'll help you draw it easier that way in space. And this pose is actually a difficult pose to draw from photograph, because your brain is lying to you. Your brain is saying, I know the proportions of things and how they should be. And I think I made the legs still a little bit too big, and I can fix all that, maybe. See if there's an easy way to fix this. But what happened is your brain will lie to you, and it will tell you, hey, I know the general proportions of things, and I know the legs are about as long as the torso, and it's going to take those proportions and it's going to try to draw them instead of thinking about how they're foreshortened. So even though, how do you explain that? Your brain looks at the picture, it's foreshortened, but the brain kind of doesn't interpret it that way. It's hard to explain. The brain plays tricks on you. It tries to see it differently than what it actually is. So in order for you to counteract that, you have to learn the actual proportions and how they are kind of foreshortened in space and everything, and draw it out mechanically, kind of thinking about how it was if you were drawing it from your imagination, and then go, oh, okay, that's how it would be if I drew it from imagination. Now that I know all that, let's go back and look at the photo again. Let's capture the likeness of the photo, looking at angles in relation to each other, how things come off, like to the toes. If I draw a line like that, it touches the finger and the toes. Draw another angle from the top of the wrist, like this. What other lines do these lines might touch? Or then I take another line from the heel, and it runs off this way. What does it run across if I draw it in the photograph? Is it running across the same area? Is it cutting across that part of the crotch? Is it hitting the belly button? If I have a line going through the nipples, let's say, is it angled like this, or is it angled more like this? And that's one thing I mentioned that really quick because I did see that that's incorrect. And so go, okay, so I'm wrong. It actually should angle more this way, and this nipple should be down over here more. And because your brain will tell you what you think ought to be the case with things, and then this nipple should actually be over there a little bit more because of the foreshortening. That's normally where you might place on the breast, but because of foreshortening, it's actually going to be closer to the bottom, even though you know that's not right. But from this foreshortened area it is. And now you see angles, and you can go, okay, what about this bump and the breast and the shoulder? Do they all kind of match up in a line based on what I'm looking at and based on what I drew? And should this be as big as it is, or should it be smaller in relation to the head? And I can see that it should be smaller. Should this be as big as it is or be smaller? And I see, yeah, it's pretty much the right size. Maybe the head can be a little bit bigger, actually. So you start matching things up and just look at it. And then after you have it all kind of mapped out and figured out, and whether or not it's going to match what you think is closest to the photo, then you go ahead and redraw it. You can either, sketch over what you're drawing, like go ahead and erase a lot of it, or take a piece of trace paper, whatever. Take a kneaded eraser and erase it like that, and then come back in and start resketching and correcting things so that the angles are right and everything. And that way the picture matches the photograph, and you get more of the lightness out of it. And push it more flat here, so because she's being sat on, she's pushing, the weight is pushing up on the table on her buttocks and so forth. And you start capturing the lightness more, and then you go, okay, there's a softer turn in here, even though you know the mechanics of it, that's why you drew it that way. The actual real image is going to have a softer turn of everything here. And the turn, everything might just be a subtle shadow instead of hard drawing, so it'll all look more subtle as you pull it around. And maybe you look at it again and go, oh wait, maybe the brush would actually hang down a little bit more due to gravity. And actually pull it down just a little bit more like that, and maybe the nipple would even come over here a little bit more, and things like that. So you just start correcting things that you see as either right or wrong. And then you go, okay, so I know I have my ribs will come off in this area here. I have the center spot, and your belly button would be foreshortened and flat. Maybe that will come out more and things like that. And that's when you come in and start correcting things, and then redraw it again if necessary. Just completely start over and redraw it. But now you have all this kind of mapped out and figured out. So for example, how far down, what kind of angle you have here at the wrist. See, the wrist will probably come out a little bit further here. And like that. And then the hand should come down and so forth. So I start looking at all that and matching up with relative angles to things and where things overlap and so forth. Right, so that would be how you go back in to capture the likeness of what it is you're looking at. Now if you're just going for imagination, and only imagination, then instead of trying to capture the likeness of what you're looking at, you try to capture the likeness of what you know. So you go, okay, so anatomically, what would happen? You have to think about things like, would the breast drag down more due to gravity? And if we made a breast bigger, how would they look, for example? So you go, okay, well, this whole breast would be kind of sponged, it'd be kind of coming down more toward it this way and out to the side. So it might have a shape like that to it, and the nipple would be somewhere in this region here, let's say. And then this breast here would also flop down this way, but also, that might be a bad word to use, flop. But anyway, it's kind of, gravity is going to pull it down to the side and over this way toward us like that. And then the nipple is probably going to fall somewhere in here now. And then the shadow, and then this part. So it's overlapping more of the rib cage and so forth. So you have to think about all that kind of stuff when you're drawing from imagination, when you don't have anything to look at. But again, when drawing from what you're looking at, still try to capture it from imagination. Draw it mechanically with the methods that you understand to draw mechanically with, whatever those are. If you've taken one of my courses, and maybe you'll use those mechanics. Maybe you mix and match different mechanics you've learned. Maybe you've invented some of your own and so forth. And I'll add all that onto it as you're drawing it, and then you'll capture the likeness of what it is you're drawing. But yeah, there's some poses that do seem very hard to draw. If you're just trying to draw what you're looking at without using any mechanics, it can seem very daunting. But if you use the mechanics and go, well, let's say I'm drawing someone, I'm looking kind of down at them, and I'm at a 3/4 view, and I'm looking down at them. Draw with these mechanics in mind. Here's the neck, then the head. The head's going to fit. Draw like where this bottom shape of the head first, where it's going to connect. So the chin is going to jut out past the, and then the side view and so forth. It's going to jut out past the neck, right? And then draw the chest coming down here like this as a box. And so you're drawing it this way, right? And then you draw that middle line. That's the center line. Then it comes this way and it comes up, right? Boom, boom. So now there's going to be more breast on one side. Down there, this will be more of a side view of the breast. And this will have more, but for now I'm just going to draw the center, the line where the breast might be. I know I have the muscles coming off here, connecting the trapezius muscles. And they kind of come and connect to the front over there. And into the deltoid. And then my deltoid is going to be here and here. Because I'm seeing kind of the side and the front view of the deltoid. And I draw the arm. The arm's coming down. I know the relative space of the elbow is about where the ribs will be. So I know, okay, here, this is the front of the rib cage, right? And I also have the side. I'm seeing part of the side of the rib cage here. That's why I have the box there to see that. And then over here, I'm going to have some of the shoulder and trapezius being visible, but I'm not seeing as much of that shoulder. I'm seeing more of the bicep here where it comes and connects up. But I know that the elbow comes down to about, this line here. But because everything is being foreshortened as it's going down, it might look shorter. These are things you just learn and memorize. Right, and then the hands. So as it's going down in space, everything is moving down away from me. Everything gets shorter than what it ought to be, but it's still going to kind of line up. And so I know my hips then are going to be in this region here. There's going to be a space, a gap between the top of the hips and the bottom of the rib, right? And I got to calculate that. And also I'm seeing the side as well. So I imagine a box like that, and then I have the center line. So now I know that and this I'm just doing from imagination, I'm not looking at anything right now. This will come up like this will come up like this. That's your front view. But you also have the side view, so you have the iliac crest, remember? And it kind of comes around like this. And over here, like that. So you see these kind of, so then now you can kind of imagine more of that oval shape in there. The box is just, you can just visualize the box. You don't have to draw the box. It's just there to help you see. So I know the leg is attached up there, and it's coming out and it's attached to here. And I'm going to be seeing a lot of the side view of the leg, and this leg is going to overlap that leg a little bit as it's attached here, but it's also attached all the way to the sides over here, and it's not going to go back that far. Got to keep that same line like that running all the way down. So I know the leg is attached to this part, and it's attached way up here to the iliac crest, and it's going to come down. And I'm going to be able to see then a little bit of there's the love handles here. They're going to come down like that. Actually, going to be a lot thinner like that. And we'll see a little bit of love handle over here, just kind of the side of it. So we're making it a man. I decided to make it a man. This is all side view here. And so what happens here is I'm able to see a little bit of the buttock back there as it comes around, and then this leg comes down. Now all this is going to get shorter as it goes down, right? And you can kind of start erasing a lot of this stuff, and this is going to come up here like that. This is going to overlap a little bit. This comes down here. Might see like a little bit of the rib cage like that. A little crossing over love handles, buttocks, the navel. Your abs will be in here. As all this goes down, because we're kind of having a top view of it, all this is going to, normally this length will be exactly the same. From here to here. So that length there would be the same multiplied down here. That's normally how it would happen. So all this would meet down here. But because it's all being foreshortened, it's all going to meet like here, let's say. And so now I know I need to fit my legs within that region of space. So I know typically I would take the halfway point from here to here, and know that's about the knees. But because everything is moving down away from me, what happens when things move away from you in space? In this case, they're moving away from me down this way in space. As they move away from me in space, things get closer and closer together that would normally be far apart. So if the halfway point would normally be here, things are getting further apart, so this top leg would look longer than the bottom leg. So now that center line moves down here more. And now the knees are going to be more down here. That would be the side view of that knee here. And then the calf, and all comes down here to the foot, and the foot's going to look tiny. And that center muscle, let's say, seeing part of that, but you're seeing mostly this big side muscle here. That side muscle, calf, shin, down to the foot, and just kind of make simple feet down there like that. Now that's quite a, I still think that's a little too, I mean, a little too wide on some of this. I'm not really liking it. It all should kind of get thinner anyway as it goes down into space as well. Everything gets tinier and thinner. Still kind of show that, and then kind of show that, and then the leg. There we go, it looks better. But notice we're seeing all this side view of all this stuff here, and we're seeing the front view of the character. So that's looking down into space. And then, you know, this arm over here, you wouldn't see as much of that arm, right? Because it's all being kind of hidden by this. That's like the top part of the shoulder and then a little bit of the side. So you're only seeing part of that arm because it's being hidden by all this here. This is all kind of coming in front of it, and it's overlapping it a bit because we're at an angle here. But this arm here, we can see all of it. And I'm thinking hand will be more here, like that. Because everything's being foreshortened as it goes down, remember? And then I would actually make the love hand a little bit smaller. That would come up like that. Right, so think about the three-dimensional shape. Think about the boxes. If you have to draw the boxes, then draw the boxes. And also remember, we're going to see a lot of the top of the head here, a lot of this top dome. And so if we were to think about the face now, the head. But yeah, if you have to draw boxes, draw boxes. You can draw a box for the head, for example. So that's the center line of the face. But for right now, we're just going to draw a box here, like this. Right? That's the head if it was a box. I like thinking about the head as a box. It really helps seeing it. Now you can kind of take that box and kind of round it out a little bit. Go, okay, so I know there's a center line, another center line here for the eyes, and there's a dome here. I'm imagining that kind of the round shape of that dome, and like maybe the center line, like that. And that's all, you know, all up there is going to be hair. When you wrap around the head this way, you know that you'll have your eyebrows, and then you'll have the top of your ear, and it comes down over here. You have the nose, the mouth. It's all being foreshortened as it goes down. The chin, jaw comes around this way. This is side view, and it kind of runs around to the front. A little bit of an edge there like that. And then the neck comes all in that area there. See some of the back of the head a little bit, maybe because you're kind of seeing the side view as well as the front view. And the muscles as they come off of that, and so forth. You kind of imagine how you see all that in there. Then go, okay, is my head right size? You know, I can fit this halfway part. I can divide it in half, divide that in half, like so, come across, and, you know, well, actually, let's look at that line again. Okay, straight out, straight out, straight down. Divide that in half. That looks about in half. Divide that in half, come across. So yeah, the head probably should be maybe a little bit smaller. But I don't know, it looks right to me. Anyway, so that sketch is pretty sloppy, but you come back in, erase a lot of this here. Maybe I will go ahead and see what happens if I make the head proper like this. You're seeing more of the top of the chest than you are at the bottom of the chest due to the angle that you're looking down at the character, right? Looking down. So as you can see, you can come in here and start tweaking it. Damn it, stupid thing. So as you come in, you can refine this sketch. I want to kind of maybe make that a little bit lower like that. And it might look funny as everything's getting foreshortened like that because you're coming down into space like that, but I'd probably foreshorten maybe the torso a little bit more than I did. It's actually a little bit long, I think. I think it should probably be foreshortened more. But yeah, so you can start refining. And then sometimes, I'll go ahead and be like, you know what? I know technically it should fade out more, but if it just looks weird to me, like if the realness looks weird to me, then I'll just, fake it. Be like, all right, fuck it, let's just make it longer, even though technically it's not supposed to be longer. Just go ahead and make it longer. Maybe not that much longer, but just kind of fake the perspective out. So it's like, yeah, I know everything's supposed to come and be a lot shorter than it actually is here. But instead, I'm not going to make it too much shorter, let's say. Something maybe like that. You get the idea though. Right, hopefully this was helpful and informative. Thanks for watching.